we were on YouTube here, but we are back. And I got some updates for you guys. I got some questions that we can all run through. And obviously, when new ones come in, I will prioritize those first. But I mean, a couple updates. What do we got? Is it Tuesday? Is it still Tuesday? Oh my goodness. No, it's Wednesday. Jeez. Either way, Wednesday, August 20th here. And still working on getting the office location secured. Although we're getting closer and closer by the day. I think we finally nailed the spot. Don't want to say that yet because shit always falls through. If you're involved with any type of, I mean, building stuff, um, whether it be homes, whether it be apartments, whether it be other businesses and things like that. Yeah, it's kind of a world that things are constantly changing um, in terms of real estate things. But yeah, hopefully we found this right spot here. I think everything so far should work out smoothly. We'll see if any surprises come up, which, if they do, whatever. Things happen, you know? But yeah, we got that. I didn't do any trampoline work today. I know I've been raving about this little personal trampoline rebounder. I've been trying to remember the name of this damn thing. I've been playing around on the rebounder a lot, but didn't get to today. I don't know. Just didn't feel like it. Did some kettlebells and other things workout wise. But we were still box balling. Love that thing. Probably going to use it until it breaks and then get a new one. I think there's actually a couple different levels to it too. So I still have just the original thing. But I would love to get the upgraded one. Nobody yet here on YouTube. Kind of quiet. Which I did show you guys some love for a little while. I know, I know, but I think we hit 370 subscribers today, which is pretty cool. There we go. We got some people popping in. What's going on? We got Mango Juice 5. We got Archer IG, Monkey Man, VR. What's going on, people? Let me know where you're from, where we're turning into. I was just basically going through some updates on my end and did some training today, physically, mentally too. And now we got, like I was saying before, possible office location for the first Wellness Way in New Jersey, which would be pretty damn cool. Hello, Karima, Tricky Karima, fancy little name there. Yeah, hello from Israel. My goodness, Mango Juice 5. Hi, Dad. Oh no. Here we go. YouTube is honestly, I know I haven't done a live in a minute here, probably like a week or so, but the comment section in YouTube is something else. You guys are creative, I guess I could say. But TikTok is kind of like the Wild West too, just in different ways. Um, I would say TikTok is definitely more squirrel brained oriented, just because they can't really pay attention for a little while. Blue Juice, Anchor IG, Read Cha, not Car. What? Oh, Read Chat? Is that what you meant? I don't know. Either way, we're going to be rolling through some health questions here today. And if you guys got live ones, pop them down below. I will run through everything, lead you guys in a good direction, give away some value for free here today. And if you do not want to ask this publicly, you can email me your questions as well, which I believe are in, or email is in the description of my bio there. But we got more hellos, and then triple A, triple B. I've been scrolling a bit through some lives, and I see degeneracy in the comments. Yeah, there's a lot of degeneracy, especially on YouTube. I think it's funny. Hey, don't get me wrong. I'm all about the humor. Like Mango Juice. What are we doing, guys? Either way, Um, Bros chopped. I don't even know what this term means. I'm pretty up to date on some of this stuff. I'm actually gonna look that up. I feel like I'm behind on some terms, but either way, I believe our first question, which this is pretty interesting. Why do I feel more tired after working out instead of more energized? So, working out is still a physical stress there, and you could totally have exercise deplete some of the adrenal hormones there. Oftentimes, too, people aren't eating enough, or you're waiting too long to eat, especially after you do a hardcore workout. And now your adrenals and mitochondria and all the cells are trying to pick up all that they can to start to make new energy because you just burned through a lot of the easy, quick fuel sources from stimulating that muscle. So there's that. Um, if there is, say, a cortisol issue tied with an adrenal issue, you can deplete things in a similar way. Um, but yeah, in terms of like avoiding that post exercise dip in energy, make sure you're getting electrolytes in, make sure you're replenishing, honestly, with something like honey, or even maple syrup, in that way that you can get a little bit of a boost now that you removed a lot of the sugar from the system, and doing protein like crazy. Like, for those of you guys that don't know, I could get you protein discounted anyways. That way you could do more, build more muscle, that being one of the key longevity organs, um, that we all have. It's just we're not stimulating and we're not building up enough. So protein can be low. Definitely electrolytes. Definitely things like sugars post workout, um, and good adaptogens that can build up some of those things like ashwagandha. That way you can kind of favor the road either way and actually get some rebuilding done of the adrenal glands themselves. And if this is more of like, waking up really tired in the mornings and things like that, you could potentially even do organ meats in the form of adrenal glandular. So that would be adrenal glands mixed in with something like liver, and now you can pretty much rebuild a lot of the tissues associated with those hormones. So, um, focusing on the recovery aspect there too. Make sure you're sleeping enough. Like I said, make sure you're eating enough. That is a huge, sleeping, eating enough with a ton of physical activity is going to be really important there. Um, and yeah, doing something like the Dutch adrenal, which I think is a wonderful test that could really show you the balance of those things there. But let me see what's happening in this friggin' chat. People are going wild. Bum bum bum. In seventh grade, varsity basketball team. Do you think I'll make it to the WNBA? You can't be in the seventh grade and in high school. Caught him there. These are pretty funny. I don't care if you believe it or not, but it's not true. Saying cap. Ew, no. All right. I feel like you guys are a good group of trolls there, which, like I said, I love humor. Keep it up. Um, Either way, we'll have a good time. We'll have a good silly goose time here. But yes, I've personally gone through that too, where you're having energy dips post workout. Make sure you're eating enough, and make sure you're doing some adrenal regulating things there too. But is intermittent fasting safe for women? Fasting and intermittent fasting are different things. So if you are trying to do 72-hour fasts, with a very small group of women, would I want them doing that? Intermittent fasting, different story. I call that more of a time restricted eating, but I don't like seeing people avoid breakfast, and especially women. Um, Getting better, higher fat and protein sources in the morning, and then doing something like a late lunch and then skipping dinner is just overall better because you're going to have more protein assimilation in the morning. And the higher proteins you go, the whole point of a lot of this intermittent fasting stuff is to lose weight. But yeah, the more protein you get from a thermogenic point of view, you're not even getting all those calories in from protein, and protein's like the lowest caloric source there is. So aside from something like water, but or electrolytes. But yeah, calorie wise, protein is what, 4 grams um, thing there, and now there's a 70% that is actually used in your body. So, heck yeah. Now you're burning more throughout the day, especially doing muscle stimulation and different activities like that too. Um, for the women that shouldn't be doing too much time restricted eating or fasting, I'm okay if you do this a couple times a week or something like that. But depending on who you are and not having adrenal testing in there, you can be doing yourself more harm than good and even be holding on to weight in that way too. Especially if you're having issues with cortisol, the stress hormones, or even progesterone issues there too. Because you can deplete some of that by just stressing out the system more than it needs to be because it may already be stressed out. So the only way to know that is to do testing. But that's what we're all about here. Um, what else? Stress management, that's key too. Make sure you're doing things like California poppy, ashwagandha, beautiful combo there. These should be liquid herbs again. Um, and maybe you do something like intermittent fasting, but just targeting something like protein shakes and things like that with your green tea or matchas or coffees or whatever you're doing there. So, it depends on the individual. So it's hard to give a blanket statement for that type of question. So, no new chats. Hope you have a good day. You too. Ba-ba-ba. Why do I keep waking up at 3 a.m.? There's a couple different things that can happen here. Most commonly, though, is going to be a blood sugar drop in the middle of the night. So your blood sugar is getting too low. Maybe you had too much sugar close to that bedtime. I mean, you can stick a fatty acid in with that mealtime just to hold on to that blood sugar a little bit longer, and that you're not having a huge dip there. Because when that blood sugar dips, your cortisol is going to ramp up to try and bring glucose into the bloodstream too. So that's going to be partially a circadian rhythm issue tied in with insulin and blood sugar dysregulation, and now you're having cortisol respond, which usually there's a stress component to these things too, especially in females. But you could do something like a coconut oil or an avocado oil right before bed. Something if you could do the beef tallow in that way. This is literally just a spoonful, um, like a normal teaspoon, tablespoon, that sort of range. But yeah, I mean, supporting the stress and supporting blood sugar support, or regulation there. Again, ashwagandha, um, things like gymnema, things like Oregon grape. And now you're not just having an impact on the pancreas, not just having an impact on the adrenals, but you're promoting proper liver function there as well. And the ton of berberine content within Oregon grape, totally, totally worth it. But that's where probably some blood work, fasting insulin, the cortisol, DHEAS, and just getting thyroid and hormone levels run on there too, along with sugar markers, and then a Dutch test as well. That way, okay, this is where I'm at. Sometimes people won't have a gallbladder, and that can be why too. Now you can't properly absorb fats and break them down, so that could be another huge component there. But one of many that I've seen this issue. And the liver's really doing the main glucose support in that time frame. So, you hear people talk about, oh, that's the time of the liver, but there's more stuff going on than just blood sugar. Um, oh man, oh, I did something. I don't know what I did. But also trying to figure out how to get these on a multi-stream platform too, just so I can have all the platforms in here at once. That would be kind of crazy, especially when you have TikTok and YouTube meet. That's a crazy world. So, but why do my allergies get worse every spring? And this is for people that have both an internal and external um, environmental allergens that are stimulating an immune response. So I would start with what you can control internally, things like doing some local honey, doing some local bee pollen prior to those spring seasons can just expose your immune response to those same allergens before they even arise and all the pollens and things there. because it's not just that; it's also the ground now resurfacing. You can have mold within the leaves and all the different grass and stuff that the earth is pretty much starting to regenerate into the spring season. So there's that. But then internally with foods, this is where, I mean, avoiding at least the top five inflammatory foods: wheat, dairy, corn, soy, processed sugars, things like that. Getting a food allergy test is how you pretty much eliminate all that guesswork and now know exactly what to be avoiding. Um, but a lot of this comes down to the GI too, and how much vitamin D you have, because that can regulate T cell function there too. But the GI is going to have a big influence on histamine responses in general. Can you do things like, HEPA filters along with that IgG food allergy test and the GI test? Totally. I do love supporting with things like Albizia and Nettle in the meantime before you actually get those things done, just to buy you some time. But yeah, eliminate the food triggers, start cleaning up the lifestyle, get some tests to support why you're doing what you're doing, and know exactly what to avoid. And then you get to a point like where I'm at, and I don't have seasonal allergies anymore, which is pretty cool. And most wellness way patients, employees, they don't end up with those things because you figure out the triggers, and now your immune system doesn't respond like crazy. So, but yeah, that's a cool question. Boom. No new chants in here. Can anxiety actually come from the gut? Yes, it can, because the majority of the neurotransmitters are created there. So it's like, okay, yes, if that's where they come from, and you're having dysbiosis, you're having inflammatory environments within that GI, leaky gut, you will definitely have neurotransmitter signaling that is off. And that's why people call it the second brain. That's for a reason. So now you can create, a depressive type of aspect, which is pretty much what I was going through, what brought me to the wellness way, along with skin issues and nausea and stomach problems, heart palpitations, which was never fun. That was when I was in grad school, just pretty much eating and drinking whatever I wanted. But yeah, you could totally have an impact on there. Um, and I've seen that in a lot of different people. I'm just thinking of a list of patients running through my head where it's like we're not even focusing on the brain at all, but we're having changes there because we're changing the environment within the whole system. And that's the whole Swiss watch approach, is that you can change one system and have that affect all the others, especially when there's immune and nervous system responses going on within those, because those are the primary systems changing all the others. So, yeah, I mean, getting outside, obviously reducing stress too. California poppy, wonderful one. Um, Even CBD and kava combined together can have um, different influences on things like depressive pathways, where you're not having those symptoms as much. And I would say the last thing to focus on really there is more of your fermented and pickled foods, because you're going to get a different profile of pre and probiotics within that. Even um, something that you may have heard, but postbiotics. So there's that. But yeah, I would want everything there being guided from a testing point of view, especially with something like a GI test, because then you're not guessing with anything. And you'll hear me say this, though, that line over and over, because I think where the alternative natural world in healthcare falls on its face is when we're just doing a this for that approach, which oftentimes is what we're trying to get away from. So it's just like, take this for high blood pressure, take fish oils. It's like, okay, why? Like, is there any connection there with what somebody's actually going through? So, but totally. Why do I crave salt all the time? Craving salt, that can point to issues with the adrenals, maybe underproduction, or you're not converting those hormones down enough. And a lot of those hormones are going to come and be created into things like the estrogens, testosterone. A lot of the androgen based hormones are going to come from there. So that's a key component there too. Or you're having some issues with blood pressure. I'll see that in like very, very skinny women. They'll crave salt like crazy because they're going to have trouble with low blood pressure more than anything. But that's where good minerals like Celtic sea salt or whole mineralized salt there, you're not going to be pushing the body into a scenario where it's like creating a high blood pressure type of environment. You're going to get more of a regulation there, and you can actually lower blood pressure by doing something like salt. It just has to be the correct kind, which kind of confuses a lot of people. But yeah, maybe that, maybe some licorice in the morning. Um, and I mentioned the adrenal glandular before, but that's a key thing there too. Or you're not eating enough. That could be a huge, easy fix right there. Like I said, people do not get enough protein. People are not getting enough micro and macronutrients, and that is a huge connection to a lot of the symptoms that people go through. So, but yeah. And Nas just popped in here. Nas, I never got an email from you. I think hopefully I didn't give you a misspelled email. That would suck. But yes, as a reminder too, for the people watching and you don't want to submit a question live, you can always send it to me through email at aduardo@thewellnessway.com. That's ADUARDO@thewellnessway.com. That way I can give you some value, no cost to anything like that. But yeah, some people like to keep things private there. Oh my goodness. Shit, you did email me. What the hell? Where'd it go? I swear, I didn't get it. Can I put something in the chat? Is that even possible? What happens if I hit this? Start a Q&A? What does that mean? No, I'm doing a Q&A. Get rid of that. How come I can't type something in here? Isn't that annoying? So, there's got to be a way. I don't see it. Either way, ADUARDO at thewellnessway.com. Some people miss the in there. That happens all the time. But no, I swear, I went through all of them. I was like, oh, maybe I gave her the wrong. No, that's from Jessica. Yeah, I'm looking all the way back to August 3rd. That's weird. What the heck, Nas? I've been trying to figure out what the hell happened there, but it may have been my fault, actually. So, but you know what? I'm pretty sure. Let me go to my freaking YouTube here. I'm pretty sure I have it in my description or something there. Let's go to channel. Let's go. Oh, maybe I can type it into the chat. Let's see. Yep. Boom. There we go. Get that sucker in there. Pin that thing. This is my I pinned it for you too. So there we go. And we hit 370 subscribers today. Pretty cool. Trying to get to 500. Keep going day by day. Keep trickling in. Keep giving out some good value here. Let me know if my live stream's lagging a bunch. It seems to be on my computer. That could just be my Computadora there. What I didn't check was to see if my email was on the YouTube channel anywhere, which I thought it was. Let's click more. Linktree, view email address. It's in there. It's in the bio or the description. Not of this live, but of the actual thing. Either way, we settled that. I'll be waiting on your email. We'll help you out. Give you some good direction there. So we handled why do I crave salt all the time? That again could be from adrenal related things, electrolyte deficiencies. Could be blood sugar issues there too, or your adrenal hormones are getting too low, they're not converting down or not producing enough. Is it normal to get bloated even with healthy foods? No, it's not normal. Sometimes people have something like SIBO going on, but typically they're going to be having a histamine response to just normal foods. But you can have IgG based food allergies, not food sensitivities, food allergies. Um, but yeah, there can be that fermentation issue. If you have dysbiotic environments within the GI, then yes, you're going to be trying to eat probiotics and do fermented foods and do all these things. And then since you're overgrown, you're going to bloat a ton, or you just have IgG reactions going on. Um, there can be other things with, you know, different macronutrients that you can be having trouble with, fatty acids, proteins, things like that. Which, if that is the case, and it's just proteins that are kicking your butt, then stomach acidity is something to really work on, or the types of proteins that you're doing there. But yeah, even things like broccoli, people can get bloated from. It's not, you know, it's more terrain than it is trying to fear a bug or fear a certain thing. But food allergy testing can clear a lot of that up. Working on the stress, working on supporting stomach acid, and I would say eat slower, which is pretty hard to practice sometimes. Sometimes we just want to engulf things like crazy. But yes, and if you do need basically things or directions on where to be getting some of those supportive factors from, then send me an email and I'll help you out there too. Just like Nas just did. Just email me. Beautiful stuff. But, all right, we got a couple more questions. Why do my joints hurt if my blood tests are all normal? So typically, I'm not seeing enough testing ran. So they're just not looking deep enough to figure out why those achy joints, stiff joints, arthritic types of pain are happening in the first place. There's big connections to food. There's big connections within certain bacteria within the GI. Um, Bacteria are very good at hiding, and they can even hide within joints. There are cases too where women are getting more toward the menopausal years, and now estrogens are getting too low, and there are bone metabolism pathways influenced by your estrogens. So now you go into menopause, you have that initial dip, and people start getting hip pain, people start getting frozen shoulder, different things like that. So you can do some black cohosh, you can do some Sasandra, help converting those things down, white peony, just to help those adrenal hormones convert down into the estrogens, but you have to support the stress as well, because that now you're just creating hormones from fat cells and the adrenal glands once you enter that menopausal state. So yeah, but your inflammatory triggers are number one, and the different nerve impulses that could be happening in there too. So, you know, there are times where you can be deficient in some things too. That's where I like people focusing more on bone broth, protein based supplementation there too, because sometimes the whey or even, you know, grass fed meats that are made into protein isolates don't give you the right constituents to build some of that um, osteoclastic activity there, and osteoblastic activity. So there's another thing there too. Oh yes, stressing the joints. So this is where things like rebounders, those trampolines too, doing things like wearing a weighted vest and going for walks, going for hikes in something like a weighted vest. But you know, I'd want you to do that alongside of things like dead hanging with even hooks that you can put on your um, wrists as well, so that you can get good separation from the joints all the way down the spinal tract there too. So, but yes, totally. Joint issues, I mean, you could go to PTs, chiropractors, massage therapists just to get more physical things taken off the system there, but you'd want to figure out the immune triggers there too. So, looking at CRP, looking at food allergies, looking at the GI, blood sugar, oh my goodness, that's a huge component to this too. But why do I get brain fog in the afternoon? Usually, this is going to be blood sugar roller coaster all day long. You're having too much insulin being pumped out at once, and now that's going to scoop up a lot of the glucose freely circulating in the system based off of what you ate prior or what you avoided eating and didn't eat at all, and now you're having that same type of issue just without any food involved. So your brain, your adrenals, all these different tissues are heavily reliant on sugars, and it takes a while to break down proteins and fats to use for ketogenesis to make glucose from fats or proteins. That takes a long time. So if there is blood sugar dysregulation, you're doing the refined carbs, you're having a lot of the high glycemic index fruit throughout the day too. That could be a big issue there. Things like shorter walks, things like vibration plates, checking your fasting insulin, checking your hemoglobin A1C, that can help a ton too. Um, Gymnema, Oregon grape, probably the two best herbs for something like a blood sugar dysregulation issue. In some cases, you could do something like Golden Seal, but I would want you to be guided on that stuff before doing that. So, and hello. Oh, where are we going here? I lost my mouse. There it is. There we go. But either way, I got one more question in here. Unless you guys pop in some new ones, but can stress really mess up my cycle and my hormones? Which it can. Um, and really, from pregnenolone and steel, this is really stress hormones are getting too high. And this, everybody goes through different phases of life, but throughout those phases, you're going to have stressors constantly coming in. Whether this is work related, spouse related, kids related, sleep related, all the above, we got to start pouring back into that system to rebuild what we lost. And even to protect yourself from new stressors coming in, which is going to be new on a daily basis. So, yeah, and from that, you're not going to be able to build up enough progesterone. You're not going to have normal cycles. They might be really short. You can end up with them being very long. You will get cravings. You will be depressed just from not having enough progesterone in the first place. Um, Cycles can be very heavy. They can be very painful too. From things like that, just avoid overindulging on caffeines, avoid overindulging on sugars, which when you're stressing out, that's the number one thing you crave. You don't stress out and then want, is my mic? Yeah, we're still good. Maybe I'll go like this from now on. Oh, we got another question there too. But yes, stress can wreck your hormones. Totally. Especially for a female. For guys, it's going to be very different. Guys are actually going to have um, more hormone created from things like stress. So men and women are not the same. They're very different, no matter your political view. Doc, can you please tell us what is allergy manifestation? And then this, I'd imagine you're talking in regards to food, and it may not just be food. It could be environmentally too. People that get annihilated from fall or spring allergies, you can have histamine responses going on in your body, and histamine is really what Benadryl is trying to combat. So what do people turn to? Flonase, Benadryl, instead of doing things like colloidal silver, things like Albizia, nettle leaf. Not that you want to pick a this for that approach. That's very much what I'm trying to get everybody here away from, but more in the sense of, okay, we could find those allergic triggers from a food standpoint and from an environmental standpoint, which you could be reactive to things like mold, and that can affect you a ton. Um, but yeah, so there is that. There are certain bacteria that can overgrow. There are fungal issues that you can have overgrow, or even parasitic issues that make you extremely responsive to things like IgE allergies too. And not just IgG, that's more on the bacterial and fungal realm. Not that they can't influence other immune responses there too, but really with parasitic issues, you're going to be running into IgE and eosinophilic responses. So those are the um, it's not low, she says. We got a little debate on volume. I tried to fix it by holding it. Hopefully that makes it a little better. I'll take clips of this and make this sound better with CapCut anyways, so I don't know. Either way, totally. And usually people are eating themselves into a problem like that. Or there's vaccine damage, which can totally play into this too, because now you're taking a protein and then just Doc, can you please help me? Of course. We are um, very close to closing in on a location for the Wellness Way in New Jersey. So we shouldn't be too far out. Hopefully by September 1st, we have a lease signed and then we can start doing remote work. um, as the clinic gets built out. But there's not a total too much that has to be done there. But yeah, we'll have the albesias and the nettles and all those things available in liquid form with all of the constituents that they're supposed to be taken with. But yes, totally. All right. Well, good stuff, people. We ripped through those. Like I said, I'm going to be trying to look into something like StreamYard or some other program that I can have all four platforms in the chat at once. Not, I don't think you guys will be able to see that, but symptoms. One, swelling in the upper lip. Yeah, you're coming in contact with something that you're allergic to. Da, da, da. In the short term, you can swish. So something like taking aloe vera juice and swishing that around just because you don't have something like albizia or nettle on hand right now. um, which I could be wrong, maybe you do, but that's a great one that you could be doing. Oh my goodness. um, I would go to your medical doctor for that one. On that bombshell. All right, folks, 7:45. We had a good little session in there. I am going to eat some dinner. I know I should be eating earlier. You definitely don't want to be eating too late before before bed there, but good stuff. And I'll see you guys back tomorrow. Enjoy your meal. You too. And I'll be looking out for the email now. All right.